dynamic typing. Now, Python is a dynamically typed programming language, and that means that whenever you define a variable, its type can actually change later on. So here we have a variable x equals 10. Because we've assigned 10, which is an integer, to x, the type of this variable is an int. However, later in the program, I can change this variable to something like a string, and there's absolutely no issue with that. This is one of the features of Python that makes it amazing, but also causes a lot of headaches. Let me show you what I mean. We have a very simple function where we add the values a and b, which come in as parameters. Now, even though we annotate these as an integer, which is valid in Python, you can define what the type should be, it's not actually enforced. What that means is that it's okay for us to execute this code and Python will run it no problem, but while we run it, we'll run into what's known as a runtime error. If I run this, you can see that we actually print out 30, which is the result of this first function call where we pass in two integers, and then we actually get an error where it says you can only concatenate string, not int, to string. That's because we passed a string and an integer, and again, because Python is a dynamically typed programming language, it will allow us to execute this code, but it will result in a runtime error. I'm showing this to you because this is one of the major downsides of using Python. This behavior can actually occur, and when it does occur, you'll get a runtime error, which can be difficult to debug and to solve. So when you're working in Python, make sure you're familiar with this type of behavior, and even if you add things like type hints or type annotations, understand that they're not enforced and that the code will actually be able to run, and you can get errors like this if you're not careful.